Hello, Matthew. Welcome to Soul Stories.
Hi, Sarika.
So, Matthew, I know that you've been on your spiritual journey now for many years. How many years has it been?
Well, I've actually been on my spiritual journey for over 30 years, and probably 26 of that has been with the Brahma Kumaris.
Wow, that's a really long time. So, what has spirituality meant to you?
Well, it's been an unfolding process, but probably what it's really brought home to me is that I'm a spiritual energy rather than the things that I do and have, which I was previously identifying with.
So can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Because I've heard, people, when they talk about spirituality, they talk about affirmations. And then there's other people who think specifically about the Brahma Kumaris that it's all about staring at a point. Is all of that true, or is any of that true?
Not really. I think in reality, what spirituality is about awareness.
Okay.
The awareness of who you are and in what form you express that awareness. And I think the main teaching here that we apply is that the understanding that we are souls and non-physical beings that are inhabiting physical bodies and doing physical things.
So that it seems as though that's an awareness you need to have pretty much every day of your life, isn't it? There isn't really an end date for spirituality.
No, not at all. It's a constant practice, and so that's why, in fact, in the Brahma Kumaris we are students and practice this awareness every day, because it's something that is easily lost because it is very subtle.
And what made you move here to GRC?
Oh, well, that was quite an interesting story, and I came probably just a couple of months after we'd got hold of the building, and I was living in Bournemouth. I was running a centre down there for the Brahma Kumaris, and I heard about this place, and so I used to come with a couple of people that were down in Bournemouth, and we used to help out getting the building ready and everything. And then out of the blue it sort of came about that I should start thinking about maybe whether I wanted to move here. It sort of happened as a sort of sense of feelings and talks with people, and so I actually applied to come here. So I did a CV and approached Sister Janti and Daddy Janki with it, and they said accepted, start next week.
Wow, you actually did a CV to come here.
I actually did a CV with all the things on it that that I've done in my life, and I've had many jobs because I was very dissatisfied in my life and could never settle down to anything. So I had a whole range of job experiences that I thought might be useful here.
And has that diversity in your tasks continued here at GRC?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Right across the board, I do many things here in GRC. I have a very rich and varied life here.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you do?
Well, probably one of the main areas that I tend to be involved in is with the retreat areas, with the logistics of the retreat. I deal with the organising of the programmes with the various retreat organisers and make sure the logistics are okay for them. I get the programmes ready. I make sure everything is, the materials and everything they need for the retreat is available for them, and also I oversee the running of the logistics of that retreat also.
Wow.
In terms of speakers and things that have to be done here and there and everywhere.
I know you didn't mention this, but a couple of the things that I know you do here is I've seen you in the garden with the mower a few times, and I know you are also a musician. And was that something that you were always interested in even before you started on your spiritual journey? And then how has your spiritual journey sort of influenced your music?
Oh, well, absolutely. The music thing is very integral to my whole existence. I mean, I was interested in music from a very early age. My parents played the piano, and we had lots of music around the house, and there was always a piano in the house, and I used to fiddle around with it. And then I went to boarding school at 9, and I ended up sort of playing the piano to entertain the other boys there, and took piano lessons and various things. And so music's always been integrated in my life in some way or another. And then in the 60s, when the Beatles came out, I picked up a guitar and started to play that kind of stuff. And so all kinds of musical influences. And at my school, in fact, the headmaster was very into music and we used to listen to a lot of classical music. So I got a whole broad range of experience in musical styles. And I also became a professional disc jockey, and I also worked on a radio station.
Wow.
So, music's been really part of my life in a big way. And when I came here, I thought for a while that it might interfere with my spiritual journey, and so I actually stopped doing it for approximately a year. But then I thought, well, it's a gift, and it's something that can be transformed into something useful for this as well. I can just look at it from a different perspective. So I actually started getting involved in producing meditation music, and that's sort of culminated now in Radio IC, which has got approximately 100 plus tunes on it at the moment, and I'm uploading tunes every week. So I can incorporate both that interest and offering something to everybody who likes meditation music to have that available for them.
Oh, that's great. And so that brings up another, perhaps a myth that, we have associated with spirituality, which is that if you're on the spiritual journey, you're sort of given up things, that you've done before. So if you've had hobbies or, interests that you've had in the past, you're supposed to give all that up because it interferes with your journey. And I think what I heard you say is it's not true at all. In fact, it might actually contribute towards making a positive difference to your own life as well as to the lives of others.
Yes, we all have gifts, and I think the trick is to transform that gift into something that is useful, not only to motivate you. It's important that we're creative in our lives. For example, in my spiritual study, I like to be creative, and because otherwise you're not motivated. You've got to keep going. To go for 26 years or 30 years on a spiritual journey is no small thing.
Yeah.
So you've got to incorporate all the various aspects of yourself into that journey and integrate them into it, so that your whole journey is holistic, rather than denying certain things within yourself that aren't used and feeling a sense of loss about that.
Yeah.
So the music is integrated into it, as are all my other interests. I like cooking, for example, so I cook here once a week in the house as well, and I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Everything that I do comes from some aspect of myself, and I try to use it in a certain way that not only does I get the enjoyment out of doing it, but also there's some benefit out of it for others as well if they want to use it.
And that's great. And I want to go back actually to something you mentioned earlier about, coordinating retreats and the logistics around that. What keeps you going after so many years? Because I'm thinking you welcome, hundreds of visitors pretty much every week of the year, and you've been doing it now for many years here at GRC. So what is it that motivates you even to this day to just keep doing it?
Well, I think for me it's always been a sense of self-discovery. I've always been searching. As I said earlier, I went from job to job to job, and when I found what I was looking for, which is I think there's two important things that we're looking for in life, and one of them is to understand and know who you are, and the other is to belong. And I found both the answers to those questions here in the Brahma Kumaris. But then obviously it's one has to deal with one's past, one's experiences, and develop these what are basically skills, renew these skills, or connect once again with the self in a way that's been lost. And so it's really primarily, as I mentioned earlier, the aspect of being a student, being one who's interested in transformation, being one who's excited by the prospects of understanding myself. And ultimately, part of my process here is that I also teach spiritual knowledge, and I find that very exciting to put across these ideas in a way that people can understand them. And for me, this is a challenge to simplify the kind of things that we're doing, the understanding which is very deep spiritual understandings, into ways that people can digest easily. So I incorporate a number of things in that. I do garden walks where we use nature as a mirror process to understand how we operate more effectively. And from the feedback that I get, I think it's working. But for me, it's a constant process of self-study, seeing how I can refine my own understanding of everything, to then again present it to others, and so that they can run with it.
Yeah. So it seems as though it's not just that you're giving to the people that come here, but you're also receiving a lot in that process, because they help you teach, learn about your own self.
I mean, we talk about, world transformation through self-transformation here. It's one of our slogans. And this is very much, it's not that, I'm completely selfish and I keep all these things to myself, but they initially are with me, and I process them and work with them, and then give them away, basically, and then it sort of loops round and things come back in different ways that, that the whole thing grows. And, at this moment in time, as we speak, we're noticing an expansion in terms of our organisation, our family, but also in the way that the things that we have to offer is changing, the dynamics are changing as people get more experienced, as, we can see where we can help people more effectively.
Yeah. And you mentioned a couple of things as you were speaking. You said one of the things that was important to you was a sense of belonging. And then you mentioned how the family's been growing. And I know that over the years, the number of residents here has grown as well. I think it's about 30 residents now. So what is it like to live with the same people that you work with?
Well, as people often say, when I use it in my lectures, when I'm doing sessions with people, about the challenges of our life, I say to them, well, you might be married or you might have a partner and you might find that a challenge. But I say, you imagine being married to 30 people at the same time, because that's what our challenge is here. Yeah. And of course, we're all on the same spiritual journey together. We all have the same information and knowledge. We all have many of the same experiences, but we also have our own unique personalities. And we're very much individuals, and some people think, well, because you're in a spiritual lifestyle and living in a spiritual place, that you're all clones, and that's definitely not the case. Yeah. And so, we're very much individuals, and within that individuality, there are challenges that come up. And, of course, the major challenge is to accept that it's my choice of response. And so this is something that we all know, but we have to remember. And so that whenever anything occurs between us as any type of never major conflicts, there's always little things pop up, somebody hasn't put their cup away or something like that, or left their dishes out or whatever it is.
Always the little things.
Things that can trigger off something. It's then to be able to go back to the understanding of who we are, and we're all a spiritual family, and all these kind of things, all the teachings and understandings that we teach ourselves, we have to apply for ourselves, and this is where we practice it. And of course it creates a vibration and atmosphere which is felt at the Global Retreat Centre, which people, when they come in as guests from outside, pick up on immediately, that there's a wonderful spiritual atmosphere here. And it is because, we all have a lot of love for one another, regardless of,
of people not putting their cups away.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I'd love to hear from you what you think has been sort of the greatest gift from your spiritual journey, or just the greatest lesson that you've learned.
I've learnt and received many, many gifts, and as I said, I think one of the things that I'm a family-orientated individual. I'm a Cancerian, and I like the family, I like the home, and I like sense of community, and I've always been in communities. As I said, I went to boarding school at 9, and I was at boarding school till I was 17, so I was in a community all that time, and then always spent time within communities, and I got married, and I didn't have a family, but there's always been around people. And so, to be able to have the gift of a different vision within that community, it's quite interesting. And to also, to have a spiritual relationship with people rather than the physical so much now. To be able to relate to people on a different level, as I said earlier, in a different awareness. And it creates a completely different dynamic. And one of the things regarding the music is here, one of the little things that I carry out is the entertainment on the Saturday night. So, people are amazed that we can have such a wonderful evening together, family evening with total strangers, and it's all very together. Without drugs and alcohol. And, I said, well, I've done both, so I know what it's like, and this is entirely possible. It's just a shift of consciousness that we can, really enjoy. Spiritual life doesn't have to be dry and studious and, all these kind of things. We can enjoy ourselves very much so. This is actually the result of a good spiritual lifestyle, is that we're happy and content and stable and peaceful and loving with one another naturally. We don't have to work at it. It's just the way we are. And that we're all sort of moving towards that area, and it takes time because we were coming out of a different mindset.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for sharing, things about your life and your spiritual journey with us. Because, like you said, I think you're a great example of someone who has proven that, as you said, the spiritual life does not need to be dry, and you don't have to feel deprived, because you can have a very, very enriching,
definitely,
and fulfilling life.
Yes, it's probably, in fact, the most enriching life I've ever had. Outside you can have money, you can have success, and all these things, but this kind of life is fully, enriching, in a sense that you can have, your opportunities are boundless and endless. It's just a matter of whether you're prepared to go into that area and explore it.
Well, I'm certainly motivated listening to you. So thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you for asking me.